Until the 1970s, basically right turns on red were banned everywhere.
It was the oil crisis of the 1970s when gas shortages scared drivers that a driving habit we all know pretty well these days became law. Right turns on red.
Somebody got the idea that it could help save on gas.
The idea at the time is that if you allow cars to go right turn on red, they'd be less idling, they can save gas and maybe save time.
The federal government incentivized states to change the law, even though the data showed the savings were small and the danger was higher.
There's not a lot of evidence that it ever actually saved on gasoline consumption, but there's a lot of evidence that it did increase crashes with bicyclists and pedestrians.
Jill Locantori leads the Denver Streets Partnership Advocacy Group.
One of the more famous studies is from, I think, the early 80s, and something like between 40 and 100% more pedestrian crashes and between 70 and 80% more bike crashes.
Wes Marshall is a traffic engineer and professor at CU Denver. Both talked to us about a change suggested by a transition committee to Denver Mayor Mike Johnston, that the city of Denver should look at banning right turns on red, especially in areas where people on bikes and people walking get hit a lot.
The drivers are looking to the left for oncoming vehicles and looking for a gap in traffic, and they're not looking to the right to see potential bicyclists or pedestrians who are coming into the crosswalk. And they have an incentive to creep into the crosswalk and actually block access for anybody who's trying to cross the street.
Locantori was on that committee.
This definitely came up as a quick and easy action that the new mayor could take immediately to make our streets safer.
Marshall says banning rights on red would slow traffic flow marginally, but not enough to make a noticeable difference.
If we're prioritizing saving a few seconds over saving lives, I think we're misprioritizing things.
Washington, D.C., Seattle, and Ann Arbor's, their city leaders have already committed to making this change. There isn't much data that on the impacts in those cities yet. It would take a much more robust educational campaign, by the way, to try to make this work, because making a right turn on red is really the norm, and it's really ingrained in a lot of our minds. I remember during my driver's test, I almost got marked down because I tried to do it on a no turn on red sign. You know, you kind of pull up and you're ready to go.
Oh, but now a lot of people talk about you as being a really good driver now. I mean, you've come a long way.
Oh, I can't believe I got my license. Somehow I did it. But
so I remember when all this happened during the gas crisis, and I got the feeling the idea was to save fuel and maybe also deal with our air pollution, things like that. But mostly it seems to be like a cultural thing that people are in a hurry. I don't want to sit here and wait at a red light when I could be turning.
That's why you talk to a traffic engineer like Wes Marshall. He equates it to like raising or lowering the speed limits in an area. That really, in your normal daily commute, will not make much of a difference. He says it's so marginal in this, a lot of people wouldn't even notice it.
All right, Steve, thanks.